Here is a list of all of the materials I had used. Before anything, I'll briefly demonstrate the sculpting of each individual ice shard. This is the bread and butter of this cosplay, and it won't come as a surprise, the most time consuming and patience testing part as well. The very first step is planning out the foam work. I started by measuring my shoe and made some patterns on paper. Next, the patterns were transferred to 5 mm EVA foam and assembled using a contact adhesive. In my case, I used Fevicol SR998 variant. That was the first design of my shoe cover. Later on, I got rid of that middle panel finger. Now this is the fun part, seeing your prop come to life. You can see how I assembled everything. Before I move on to the priming portion, I would like to take a step back and illustrate why it is important. These pictures here speak for themselves. Each block has been sky blue spray painted over different number of layers of wood glue. At this point it was evident that every single thing I make would have to be covered in 4 fat layers of wood glue. And this part is not fun at all. So I went ahead and did just that. This video is of the first layer. Off camera I applied 3 more. So after some painful priming, I applied 2 coats of sky blue spray paint. In this last step, I applied white acrylic paint and immediately rubbed it off to add an extra layer of detail and give that icy look. Now I'll go over the claw glove. Again, the process starts with some planning on paper. I traced my hand and scaled it up a little and transferred that design to 5 mm EVA foam. Next, I cut 5 small rectangles into which I can slide my fingers to secure the entire prop on my hand. Yep, over here I have attached them. Next, I carved out some sections using a bevel cut with my cutter. Over here I stuck the two ends together to give a more realistic look. And yep, it fit me quite well. Again, the fun part of putting stuff together. Apologies, I frequently take the prop out of the camera's view. I was so absorbed in my work, I didn't realize it back then. The prop was covered in multiple layers of wood glue, and here's the final result after spray painting and detailing with white acrylic paint. Let's have a look at how the bracer or gauntlet was done. By now you guys have a fair idea how it works. It starts on paper with some experimentation and planning. I cut the patterns out and transferred them to EVA foam. Rolled the foam and secured it using elastic to complete the foam base of the bracer. Next, it got covered with ice shards. Primed with 4 layers of wood glue. Finally, spray painted and detailed. Now in this last section, let's discuss the wings, the charm of this cosplay. I printed an image of Hitsugaya in his Bankai and cut out a single wing. Traced its perimeter on paper with some straight lines. Measured all of the distances and angles. This is key for scaling it up. I taped a bunch of newspapers together and cut out a scaled up version of the wing. After I put the newspaper wing on myself and was satisfied with its proportions, I transferred my pattern to 8 mm EVA foam. Now that I look back on it, EVA foam was a bad choice for the base of the wings. The harness is kind of the main thing over here, which is responsible for holding everything in place. I used a few pieces of plywood. My foam wings were sandwiched between plywood as shown. I also attached nylon webbings of sufficient length to be able to wear the wings like a backpack. And from there on, it's the usual drill. Cover in shards, priming, painting and detailing. Sorry for the bad image. So after doing this humongous amount of work, here's how it turned out in the end.